skills, be the boss. No more time to feel lost. Lead the way every day. Find success, it's here to stay. Rise and shine, it's your time. Skill up, raise the climb. Navigate, innovate. It's your fate, don't be late. Get the skills, be the boss. No more time to feel lost. Lead the way every day. Find success, it's here to stay.
If you're a new manager or hoping to be a new manager, join us in our exploration into what managers need to know. This program will set you up for success by building your knowledge and confidence in the skills you need to be effective. Hello, and welcome back to our fifth and last session on what managers need to know looking at conflict management. In our first session, we looked at what conflict is, and then we looked at the good and the bad aspects of conflict. Then we moved to the 5 different major conflict management strategies: to compete, which is win, lose, or the shark; to avoid, which is lose, win, for the turtle; for accommodate, which is essentially lose, win, for the teddy bear; compromise, the fox, which is lose, lose; and collaborate, which is win, win. And today we're going to look at why we respond the way we do. What triggers our responses is our self-esteem, and our self-esteem is composed of 2 different things: our self-confidence, a sense of personal competence, or I have value because of what I do, and self-respect, which is a sense of personal worth. I have value because of who I am. And in conflict, one or the other of these, or both of these, tend to be threatened. Now, I mentioned earlier in last week's session, I think, that we develop our conflict management strategies as children. It's a survival response. We either model what we've seen or we choose something that is going to keep us safe. And of course, as adults, we've gone through many different experiences, and we may have developed a variety of responses depending on the situation. But if we feel very threatened, very often and highly stressed, we will go back to what we learned as a child. Here we're going to look at what happens when somebody disagrees with us and whether or not it affects our sense of value of what we do or who we are. I was going to say who we am. One of the most important benefits of a healthy self-esteem is not being at war, either with yourself or with others. So we're going to look at a basic needs wheel. You can see on the right that there are 4, I guess my cursor doesn't show on this. There is the need to feel safe, to feel significant, to feel loved and accepted, and to love. And the stimulus could be a comment or a situation. Well, you're wrong. Somebody just says, your thinking is all wrong. Well, what need is going to, or needs are going to be impacted? The person may not feel safe. They may not feel significant. They may not feel accepted. And that turns the wheel. And where is my cursor? Here we go. And it goes through our belief window. Now, if you imagine, let me give you an example, not related to conflict, but just to explain the needs wheel. Let's say the situation is, as a child, you were badly scratched by a cat. And through your life, you believe, and this goes on your belief window, cats are dangerous. They will scratch me. It will hurt. I should stay away from cats. And that fogs up the belief window. So every time you interact with a cat, these beliefs make you recoil from the cat. Now, let's say you're older, you fall asleep, your child's or grandchild's kitten is asleep on your lap, and when you wake up, there that kitten is. Well, you have been acclimated, habituated to thinking of cats as dangerous, but you look at this tiny little thing and you figure, if it bothers me, I can whap it off my lap. And what happens now is that instead of your belief window being fogged up, you're able to wipe away a certain amount, unless the cat is small. Okay, now let's go back to our, do we want to go back? No, let's talk about behavior. So based on what we feel, all right, with the cat, it's, I don't feel safe. We have all these beliefs. If we don't have the interaction with the tiny kitten, what's going to happen is in our belief window is going to lead us to react. So every time we see a cat, no matter how big or how small, no matter how far or how close, we're going to feel threatened and we're going to get ourselves away from that cat. Now that we have seen that the tiny kitten really can't hurt us and that we have control over the situation, we can act. We can choose to let the cat sit on our lap. We can whap the cat off our lap. But we have choices now. We are not reacting. We are choosing to act in one way or another. So now let's go back to our, where is it here? Our needs wheel. So the stimulus is, I totally disagree with you. I think you're an idiot. This is just wrong. Well, if my self-esteem is I have value because of who I am, and you're telling me I'm wrong, well, those are fighting words, aren't they? So I don't feel accepted. I don't feel loved. I may not feel safe if this is a work environment or a relationship where it's really important to me that we get along. I may not feel significant. There are a number of needs that are clamoring, and they move us to our belief window. Now, if my belief window is everybody should like me, I'm a likable person. If somebody doesn't like me, that's terrible. And then I calamatize. If they don't like me, I won't be able to be with them. If I can't be with them, it's going to be hopeless. If it's hopeless, I can't have any relationships. You can see how it snowballs. Okay. And because of that, we react. We react out of hurt, out of concern, out of survival, and we get very upset. And we may say things we regret, or we may get depressed, or we may get angry. So there are a number of reactive responses that we may have. But if our belief window is different, if it says, it's nice when people like me, I'm a likable person, but if they don't, that's just the way things go, and it's not worth getting upset about, then we're going to act in a different way. We're going to maybe use active listening. I'm confused by what you're saying. You want to tell me more? We might problem solve. I appreciate that you don't feel that what I'm saying is useful, but I think that we both agree that there's a problem we need to solve, and we have a rational conversation. So we have a number of choices here. The best thing that you can do is start to think about what you do when somebody disagrees or when you're in conflict. Now, I'm conflict averse, so I know that if I don't pay attention to what's going on in me, I'm not going to react well. I'm not going to choose to act. I will react. I will either leave the situation, or I will burst into tears, or I will get angry and say things that I regret later. But if I can rework those beliefs, then I have choices to act. And this is where we decide, is this not a safe situation? Maybe I need to remove myself from it for now, or for an extended period of time. I mean, am I dealing with a shark, with someone who wants to win and doesn't care about our relationship? Well, I have choices there. Am I going to stand up to a bully, or am I not? If I tend to be a turtle and I tend to want to avoid conflict, then I need to recognize that if I'm avoiding conflict to save the relationship, it's not going to do anything to do that. In truth, the relationship will still be damaged because the conflict is not going to go away. And I'm able to think about that rationally and make a choice about how I'm going to react, how I'm going to act in that situation. Hopefully you're getting the sense of this. But when you're next in a conflict situation, try to tune in to what you're saying to yourself about it. No, this isn't fair. I'm being attacked. Nobody should be attacked. When I'm attacked, it's terrible. It means I'll be isolated. And then we blow it up even further in our minds. We need to capture that and stop that and rewrite the belief window. So we can look at our old beliefs. If someone doesn't like me, if someone doesn't agree with me, that's terrible. I won't have any friends. I won't be loved. Life is going to be dreadful. Or a revised belief. I'm a good person and I do the best that I can. And if someone doesn't agree with me, that's their right. But it doesn't mean I'm wrong, or it doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. It doesn't mean that I'm not accepted. It just means that we have to work through what our difference of opinion is. So we can choose to act or react. What's your choice? Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. I think Robert Frost got it right. Without losing your temper or your self-confidence. If you would like to take a free personal conflict style inventory, you can use this QR code to download that. And that you may find that helpful to get a sense of what your conflict management go-to strategies tend to be. And if you would like help in managing conflict in the workplace, please schedule time to talk with me, and that QR code will take you to my Calendly link. That concludes our look at conflict management. But when we looked at the OWL, or collaborate, I referred to it as win-win. And what we're going to be looking at next is win-win negotiation, getting to yes. Well, first, and there are 5 steps in getting to yes, and we will look at each of those steps in turn each week. We'll first look at how to separate the people from the problem, because when we have a history of disagreement and problems with someone, that gets plunked right between us, and it can make it very difficult for us to deal with a current situation. Focus on interests, not positions. If you think about negotiation and the kinds that you see in the movies, people go in with very clear, firm, unchangeable positions. This is what I want, and this is how it's going to be. And in win-win negotiation, we move away from that to look at what are the underlying issues, and do we share some, which gives us a platform to talk them through. We're going to look at inventing options for mutual gain, looking at situations as not a fixed pie, but that we can think outside the box to find a way that might satisfy both parties' interests. Then insist on objective standards. If we're not able to ultimately come up with an outcome that is acceptable to both, relying on external standards may be useful. With a CPA, it could be accounting standards. An attorney, it could be legal standards. Could be market value. It could be something external. And then finally, we keep our BATNA in our back pocket, our best alternative to a negotiated agreement. When do we know it's time to pick up stakes and leave the conflict? What would be our best alternative to resolving the conflict? So those will be the things that we'll be looking at starting next week. So I hope that you'll join us for win-win negotiation, getting to yes. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for coming and participating in our discussion of what managers need to know. You can find the videos of this and previous sessions on my YouTube channel or under events on my LinkedIn profile. I'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Get the skills, be the boss, no more time to feel lost. Lead the way, every day, find success, it's here to stay. Get the skills, be the boss, no more time to feel lost. Lead the way, every day, find success, it's here to stay. It's here to stay. Oh, it's here to stay. It's here to stay. No more time to feel lost.